Welcome everyone to the Safety Action webinar for February 2025. Today, what we're going to cover is take you through the key points that we brought up in the safety planning event we held back on the 5th of February. And a couple of people here today attended that as well. We're going to show you our selection of interesting workshops for 2025. And the next one coming up is understanding safety law. We find that we all have opinions on safety things we need to do or not to do, but not everyone understands how the safety law works here in Australia and in particular in Victoria. So we'll look at those. So I'm Gary Rowe, the CEO of Safety Action, and I'm joined today with Andrea Rowe. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, and good morning, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. So before we kick off with safety planning, I think three interesting questions for you this week. And one of our good friends and retainer clients asked a question, I think, of you earlier, Andrea, and Andrea will come back to this at the end of the session. But the question is, do we have to maintain safety data sheets and a chemical register for domestic type products we have in the workplace? For example, dishwasher detergent, hand wash, hand sanitizers. And you might have some clarifications of points between Victoria and interstate, Andrea. We'll come back to that later. My second question is, do workers have to use the seatbelt on reach type forklift trucks? You may or may not have seen some of these. Some are sit down type, some are stand-up type, as shown in the images here. They're a little different from most forklift trucks. So there's the question. They're different to a forklift truck. They're similar, but not identical. Do we have to use the seatbelt in this type of equipment? And people tell us, oh, our staff are getting on and off quickly and regularly on this type of equipment. My third question, so I've got three questions for you today. Do workers using manual hoists in a workshop, these are often referred to as a block and tackle, do they have to have a crane license or a dogman license? So we'll come back and give you the answer to those at the end of this session.
Gary, I remind everyone, if they like, you can add your opinions on these questions into the chat.
Yeah, we welcome that, Andrea. Although I'll rely on you, Andrea, to point out to me if I've missed somebody's question or commentary there, and feel free to add that in. So let's turn our mind to safety planning. So what I'd like to just point out to you, there are two main parts to this. One is the strategic part, which is typically looking 5 to 10 years out for your business. That's often referred to as the strategic plan. And the second part is the plan that you would have every year, which we call a safety business plan, which is an approved annual budgeted plan. So we'll show you the parts to this. So there's some easy and nice strategic planning tools that you can use, and you'll be familiar with some of these. I think many people have heard of the term SWOT analysis, which merely refers to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is often shown on a flip chart or on a piece of paper in 4 quadrants. And up in one corner, people jot down in free text, what are the key strengths of our safety program? What are the weaknesses of our safety program? And it could be maybe lack of resources. It could be, gee, I'm away on holidays for 4 weeks, but our business keeps running. That's a weakness. How do our departmental managers get safety advice in that period of time? Or it could be threats, emerging risks. What's evolving in our business by way of activity, equipment, processes? What's happening in the broader community, which could be a threat? Is there changing legislation that could be a threat? We may not be compliant. So that's called SWOT analysis. So that's one of the key, if you like, strategic planning tools. There are a number of others. Pest analysis, by the way, is not what you might think. It merely is an abbreviation of political, economic, social and technological, and it can be run in a similar way to SWOT analysis, on a big flip chart or whiteboard, and your team can actually, if you like, freehand write their ideas of what are the political or economic changes, and these could be both threats and opportunities for you as well. So there's many, many types of tools. A good question I think you can ask yourself. What would you like your safety program to look like and be doing in 10 years' time? This is what we often referred to as your safety vision for your business. And I sometimes think back to a long time ago when the US President JFK, John F. Kennedy, said, we are going to put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth in this decade. So that might be an example of a vision. And of course, then NASA and others had to turn that into a mission and specific plans and details. So looking that far out, what would you think your program should look like? That means every person in the business knows all of your safety policies and procedures. Everyone in your business willingly and habitually follows all of your safety rules? Or do you have people that you've said, look, I've told them 1,000 times and they're still not doing it? So this is a fun part of strategic planning, in my opinion, is where you can sit back with no constraints and don't think of financial constraints either. Just think, what would we like our program to look like? What would we like people to be doing, and how should they behave in our business? How would that look like? And in fact, that's the positive image that you sell to the business. This is my safety vision for this business. This is what we'll look like. This is what we'll be doing. This is how people will be behaving. I think that's a nice, fun part of strategic planning. So maybe a question: how do you know your focus? Once you've developed your, if you like, strategic plan, how do you know your focus is the correct priority for safety? Is it going to be doing the priority things for safety? And in my opinion, the answer comes from your key risks register. So every business should have a key risk register. I'll show you a format of one type in a moment. So if you don't have a key risks register, I recommend everyone listening today should maybe go away after this session and say, I think we should either revise the one we got, review it, or maybe if we don't have one, we should prepare one. So let's have a look. Don't worry about the squinty-eyed text on the screen. It's more about the format. And if anyone would like a copy of any of the slides from today, we'll give you a copy of the notes from our safety planning event back from the 5th of February. So just either email inquiries@safetyaction.com.au or give a call to our office anytime and we can do that for you. So what we've got on the left-hand side, if you like, is the key exposure that you've identified, whatever that may be. And then the next column on to the right is what are our existing controls for that identified exposure. And I've only, this is very shorthand here, and summary text has been put in the boxes here, and this might be far more fulsome in your business. And everybody's aware of your risks, risk matrix, and you may apply that in the middle of this key risk register format to actually outline. In the first item there, you'll see is a medium risk, a yellow, and the following two high risks, coloured red for convenience. And then in the column beside that, it's got additional action recommended. So if you're not happy with that risk level, then you need to implement additional action. That's what the key risk register records and monitors. And what this suggests, if we do that additional action, whatever that happens to be, we believe further moving to the right of this matrix or this register, we can reduce those risks, which were medium and high, down to a green or low risk. So that's a fictitious not-for-profit NFP business, and those ones are operational. This is an example of an agribusiness in agriculture, some agricultural related risks, and what they are and how they'd convert them, hopefully to lower risks. So there's your key risk register. So in my opinion, everything in your strategic plan should come out of your key risks register. Otherwise, why is it in the plan? Why are you doing it if it's not actually been identified as a significant risk that your business needs to manage? So once you've got that, how do we know our strategy is working? So now we've used the key risk register, we've developed our vision, we've implemented things out of our key risk register to control those risks. How do we know it's working? And the answer is because what you've said is key performance indicators or goals. So if it's going to be a multi-year program, maybe a 3 or 5 year strategic plan, you'll have goals at the end of each year. You might even have goals at a monthly basis, but that may be too frequent for most people. So you're going to monitor and report against your goals and your key performance indicators back into the business. So the key principles for strategic planning include you need a compelling case for change. So clearly in the space race back in the early 1960s, between Russia and the US, there was the space race, and the Americans wanted to be the first one on the moon. There was the compelling case for change. They didn't know how to put a man on the moon, how to get him back safely. There were probably thousands, if not millions, of little technical problems they had to solve. This is the thing about strategic planning. You know what your vision is and where you want to be. You may not know all the answers at this stage, and that's okay initially. To know what you don't know is fine. We're going to work it out, but you need that compelling case for change. Don't assume that if we've made some incremental steps in reducing work injuries in the last year, that trend will continue. This is a dangerous assumption because it's called the low-hanging fruit. You tackle a problem and the easy parts of the problem are often the first ones that you tackle and you can resolve. So what you need to do is just be careful with your forecasting of how you're going to trend. And strategic planning requires big decisions, sometimes difficult or unpopular decisions. And it will almost certainly require more budget and more resources. You cannot implement any genuine strategic plan with no additional budget, no change, and no strategic decisions. What you've just described is business as usual. So a strategic plan is not about business as usual. It's about saying, I'm unhappy with our current circumstance. I want to move to a brighter future. What might that be? And if you like, another little key principle is it's not you in the safety department that own the risks. Each department must take ownership of their own activities and the risks that they create in carrying out those activities. I think you and I, as safety advisors, are there to advise and support and help, but we don't own the risks and we don't own the activities, they do. So we should be the professional support and advisors to your team. So the key steps, I've already mentioned, you need to know, if you like, point number 2 there, where do you want to be? That's our vision. So coming back one step is, now we need to map out, now I know where I want to be. Where are we right now? And be honest with yourself. Don't assume you're better than you are or that you're worse than you are. So try and actually map out, where do we actually sit on this spectrum from, if you like, the best culture to the worst culture, best safety performance with no injuries to a business with many injuries or minor incidents or concerns of our staff. So where do we actually sit? And so what you'll have is, here's where we are now, here's where we want to be. And so we're going to document the gaps in between, and why do those gaps exist? Because that's how we're going to solve them. Another thing is a tip for everyone listening today, you cannot write a strategic safety plan sitting in your own office. You can do the first draft, but ultimately you've got to engage with your stakeholders, departmental managers, workers, safety reps. If it's a large business, possibly the unions, and certainly your executive and possibly your board. So you need to work out who your key stakeholders are and share with them where you believe you are now, where you want to be, and you've analysed the gaps. You'll then agree on your strategic targets. And I think the key role for safety people is you might go away and then do that first draft of the plan. How are we going to make improvements? That is, develop the activities and then match it with KPIs. And then your executive team should sign off and monitor. So you'll provide them with, if you like, monthly reports on how your strategic plan is progressing. So let's turn to executive safety reporting. Question: is an increase in reported incidents a good thing or a bad thing? So I'll let you just think about that for just one moment. Is an increase in reported incidents good or bad? So you and I and most safety professionals say, no, that's excellent. We wanted people to tell us about even minor incidents because they could be worse next time. And we don't want anyone injured and we don't want any damage in the business. So we would like to have lots of incident reporting. We don't want people to be aware of things but not report it. So we would typically say it's a good thing. But people outside of your office, the board and executives might think that you're not concentrating on safety and that safety is getting worse because the number of incidents is increasing. What you may not have told them is that you have ramped up the encouragement of all staff to report incidents. You've made it easier for them to report it. You may have even rewarded them for it. So here's the thing. In the general community, we often hear, the incidence of I don't know, it could be bullying, harassment is increasing. And I argue it's probably not. What we've done is we've rapidly increased awareness of these issues and the fact that it's unacceptable. And we've encouraged and made it convenient for people to report. So this idea that somehow a particular issue is getting worse merely because of the change in the incident reporting is we need to exercise a bit of caution. You need to know that in advance so you can calm your business down and actually you'll have the facts beneath it, whether that statement is true, whether the problem is getting worse, or is it that we've actually brought it to the surface. So just be aware of the two things. So some tips on board safety reporting. I believe the four key things that I think should be brought forward to your exec team and board, if you like, on an annual basis is that safety vision and the strategic plan. So you might have a 5-year plan, but they should sign off on any changes to it on an annual basis because your plan's not likely to stay the same for 5 years unchanged. Then on an annual basis, you've got a corporate safety business plan, which I'm going to come to momentarily, and I'll explain what that is. The key risk register, we've already discussed. The board and the exec team should see that and say, gee, have you missed any key risks that we think the business is facing at the moment? The safety systems, which is your safety manual, policies, procedures, and what was your performance last year? So for the last 12 months, so review your performance. And on a monthly basis, I think your exec team should receive significant incidents by exception. I wouldn't tell them that Gary Rowe spilt his coffee walking out of the kitchen necessarily. So it's by exception what we think is important, significant, what either did cause significant damage or harm or could have in different circumstances. Maybe emerging risks. So to my mind, one that quickly comes to mind is psychological health. And this is a growing topic across the whole community. And so awareness is growing of this and awareness of what we can do and should do. So by exception, we may report what these trends are and what's happening in the business. And obviously safety performance measured at least monthly, both lead and lag indicators with the KPIs, key performance indicators. So let's turn our mind to a safety business plan. So what are the key principles? Number one, your safety business plan will list all of the recurring, that is, and things that have to happen every year annually, plus any special emphasis activities for this year, not for next year or the following year, as in a strategic plan. A safety business plan only covers 12 months. So this is what it lists. The executive not only approve it, you've actually got solid locked in budget. A safety business plan is not aspirational. There is a firm commitment to deliver on the full plan. So you can't at the end of the year say, oh yeah, we have those 20 items that we said we'd do in the plan, but I got busy and I got sick back in October and we did this as well during the year. Then you're not a good planner. It just means you're just doing whatever interests you on the day and this month, whatever is convenient for you to do. A proper plan in business is something that is planned and somebody's got to be held responsible to deliver. So remember, each department owns the activities and their risks, but I believe the safety team coordinate that safety business plan and do the reporting on it. So if somebody's not delivering, it's your job to actually monitor that and include that in the reporting and possibly help them to deliver on the plan. So a safety business plan, and this is is only a format of a possible safety business plan, but it gives you an idea. Remember, it's for a specific 12-month period, whatever your planning period is. It could be July to June, or it could be calendar year. It could be whatever timing your business chooses. So part A be the regular program elements. These are the things you're going to have in every year. You're going to set annual performance goals. You're going to have a training plan. What training are we going to do this year? We're going to have safety inspections, monthly, weekly, daily, and an annual internal audit. They're going to be mapped out, who's going to do them, when they're going to be done. Somebody's going to measure and monitor this. Safety meetings, when do we have them? Who attends? Who's coordinating this? Emergency preparedness, evacuation drills, recording that they're done annually. Fire equipment inspected, visual inspections, test and tag. You probably engage a contractor to do it. That's okay, but it's got to be measured and that something's happening and reported that it did happen. Portable electrical equipment needs to be safe. You may choose to do electrical test and tag. You may do other inspections. So they're the regular items. And if you like, in every given year, some companies tell me this year we're going to focus on machinery safety and we're going to run a major program to bring all of our machinery up to the correct standard. So it may be the task is to conduct a plant risk assessment and all plant has a documented risk assessment, if indeed they didn't have one. Chemical safety could be a focus, and you're going to make sure that you've got the dangerous goods register and you've got risk assessments on each of those for this year. Or it could be traffic management. We're worried about people moving around our site, or you might have multiple special emphasis programs in the year. You may have one of these or multiple. I don't know how big you are and what resources you've got and how big your problem is, but this is just a format. And anyone who's interested, we can send you out a copy and you'll see more detail.
And Gary, we've got a good question from Richard's asking, how do you determine the key risks for your register? Is there a criteria?
That's a very good question. I know I floated over that, and we had more time in our planning workshop, and we do other planning workshops specifically on preparing key risk registers, and we do workshops in-house with companies. It's essentially, Andrea, done by a group of key stakeholders who know the business, both operational and management side of the business. And it's often like a whiteboard think tank type exercise, listing them all on a big whiteboard and culling them down and grouping them, and then agreeing for our business at this point in time, these are the key safety risks that could seriously injure our people. So bear with me.
And Gary, would you refer to the key risk register when preparing your safety business plan for the year?
Oh, absolutely. So that's where you draw your information from to say what's the priority for this year. And I think it should professionally come from the key risk register. It's not just something we invent out of our mind and we say this is a big issue this year. It's something that the business also agrees with you is one of our key risks to manage. So if you've got hundreds of people driving around the countryside, salesmen, advisors, whatever, then obviously traffic accidents is going to be one of your key risks for your business, being injured or killed out on the open road. And so that might be, if somebody's in a factory and they've got lots of machinery, then I think machine guarding. If we're in a warehouse environment, we've got lots of forklift activity and order picking and people out doing order picking in the warehouse. We've got traffic management combined with pedestrian safety around mobile plant. So it depends, Andrea, upon what the business is doing and its environments. That dictates the key risk register, and that then dictates both the annual safety business plan as well as our strategic plan.
Thanks, Gary. And I know that often you explain all of this in a full, I believe, a full day workshop. So I think you've done well to explain a good part of this in just 20 minutes.
Thanks, Andrea. And we'll come near to the end of it. Some people like to map out an annual timetable by month of the key things they're going to be doing. And the one here on screen is typically, I think, would be an office-based environment. And what it shows in January every year, they're going to roll out their safety business plan. And every month, the second item is the monthly workplace safety inspection. So every month in this business, they do a monthly inspection. They do an office safety review in September of each year. They review their manual handling risks and risk assessments in March each year, and so on. By putting it into boxes like this and cells by month, it allows you to walk in and say, okay, we're in February. February's listed that you're going to review your first aid risk assessments. Have you done that? So you can talk to people about what was scheduled for this month. Has it been done? If you didn't have this timetable, it was going to be done sometime over the year, you can never lock them down. They'll say, oh, I'll do it next week or next month.
Gary, some of our clients like to actually change the color on this once the action's completed, yes. Tick them or change them to green when complete. So then we can just have a look and say we're in February, and we can actually visually very easily see, did we complete our January, and how we tracking on our February activities.
Absolutely, Andrew. So they'd put a solid line to where they are on the timetable, and everything behind on the left should be green, should be shown as done, or as you said, if it wasn't done, yellow or red, and they're going to have a corrective action to bring. And it ensures everything you said you were going to do over the year gets done and gets reported on. So that's, if you like, the key summary, our timetable of public workshops. And the next one coming up is safety law that I mentioned at the start of this session, is for the 20th of March. If you've got any of your team that does not understand how this works, when a WorkSafe inspector comes into your site, one of your team gets injured or a twinge in their back, is it workers' comp? Are they going to lodge a civil law claim, common law claim against a business? What's the criteria for that? How would you defend it? If an inspector issues a notice, or if they choose to prosecute, what should you do? What will be the first signs? How will you know about this? So that's our workshop, just looking at safety law, and there are other topics as well. And so just finish off, remember, a strategic plan will need more resources and some difficult decisions. Otherwise, it's business as usual. If there's no compelling need or an appetite for change, it is okay for you to simply implement an annual safety business plan each year. That's quite professional and good to do. So there's our safety law workshop. And if I may, I'll turn to Andrea. So the first question we had was, do we have to have a data sheets, safety data sheets, and a chemical register for domestic type products in the workplace? Andrea, you're our DG specialist for safety action.
Yeah, so Gary, this is a really excellent question, and it's a challenging one for businesses that might operate across more than one state or yes. of Australia. So if you are outside of Victoria, the answer is no. You don't have to have your domestic type products on your chemical register, and you don't need to have the safety data sheet for those. So this would apply to chemicals that you can purchase at the supermarket, for example, and that you use in the same way and quantities that you would use at home. So for example, dishwasher tablets in your kitchenette. at the workplace. However, this wouldn't extend to, for example, dishwashing detergents used in a commercial kitchen or laundry powder used in a commercial setting like a laundry. But what about those of us in Victoria? So Victoria's dangerous goods or hazardous substances laws under our OHS regulations do not have the same kind of specific exemption that you have in the under the WHS laws. So technically, any chemicals that are a hazardous substance or a dangerous good do need to be on your chemical register, and you do need to have the SDS available for your employees that could be exposed. However, Gary, I know under the OHS regulations, you found an interesting exemption for the retailers of these chemicals.
Correct. So you're right, Andrea. So under Regulation 155, the employers are obliged to provide obtain the safety data sheet with no exemptions. So it just says you have to have a safety data sheet if it's a hazardous substance. But back under Regulation 147, it says that the manufacturer suppliers don't have to provide a data sheet to the employer if it is from a retail warehouse in a consumer package. So this is a glitch of the regulations that the employees are required to get the data sheet, but when they go to the supplier or the manufacturer, they have no legal duty to provide it if it's from a retailer in a consumer package. Yeah. They probably would give it to you.
And Gary, the intention of that exemption there is so that it does not obligate Coles to give you a stack of safety data sheets every time you go to the supermarket and buy some cleaning products. Yes. I believe that was the intention of that. But many of our viewers today have commented that, of course, they would still obtain the safety data sheet and have that because their team members are actually in contact with those chemicals. So I still do agree that that is a good practice. But I also encourage, to make it easier for yourself to comply. I always encourage businesses to hold as little chemical products as you can. Avoid using hazardous substances or dangerous goods where possible. Of course, that's safer for your employees, but it also avoids the need for these obligations. So if you look out for example, the environmentally friendly cleaning products, often those are non-corrosive, non-hazardous substance. The other tip I have is, don't make sure that your cleaning contractors lock their cleaning cupboards, which protects your workers so that your workers cannot be exposed to those products. And in most cases, that can avoid the need for your business to have the register and safety data sheet for those substances.
Thanks, Andrea. Good advice there. And given we're just past our usual half hour, I'll quickly cover the other two questions, if I may, Andrea. So question 2 was, do workers have to use the seatbelt on reach type forklift trucks? So most people that are involved with forklift activity know that it has long been a requirement that drivers of forklift trucks wear the seatbelts. So this question was around, but there's a different type of forklift truck. So what I can tell you, both in Victoria and in the WHS interstate regulations, using slightly different words, they require employers to refer to the manufacturer's instructions and follow them for whatever equipment. And for mobile plant, it refers to that the employer to prevent the risk of an operator being ejected from that mobile plant. So therefore, if the manufacturer's manual, if the manufacturer provides a seatbelt and the manual for that equipment, manufacturer's manual says you should wear it, that is also the legal requirement, because the regulations refer employers to follow the manufacturer's instructions. So if they're fitted to that type of equipment, then yes, they are required to wear it. So there's that one, if you like. The other one was around these small hoists, often referred to as a block and tackle. And they're manual, they're not powered. So our good friends at at WorkSafe, Victoria, in the construction particularly the construction division, have told us, yes, it is a crane. It meets the criteria of a crane because it lifts and lowers a load. So that's the primary definition of a crane. However, it doesn't meet any of the criteria to require a license. So yes, it's a crane, but there are specific types of cranes for which you have to have a license, and this is not one of them. So categorically, if you see a manual type hoist, if you like block and tackle in the workplace, the operator does not have to have a crane license. Then the second follow-on question is, do they need a dogman license? So a dogman generally connects the crane and the slings to the load, selects what type of sling and where and how to connect it, as in weight and balance. And we're advised by our friends at WorkSafe that if you get a competent person to prescribe what slings you'll use, how to connect them to a motor or a gearbox or whatever load you've got in your workshop, and how to maneuver that, then you've avoided making a judgment on those items, because that's what a dogman license is about, making a judgment about slinging. If you can avoid any need for judgment of how that load is slung, then you do not need to be a dogman either. So get a competent person to prescribe what slings we're going to use, where to connect them, how we move it, and you don't need either a crane license or a dogman license. So that's the advice we've got on that, Andrea. And so with that, Andrea, thank you very much for the good advice on the chemicals, cleaning and hand sanitizer in the workplace. Thanks, everyone.
Gary.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And our next safety webinar will be on Friday, the 14th of March. We look forward to seeing you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.